Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, as he does every other Tuesday, Craig DeLuz of The Rundown. Craig, thanks for coming along today, man.
Hello. How are we doing today?
Doing great. How you doing, bud?
I am doing phenomenal, sir. Doing well.
Well, it seems like there's just about one news story that everybody is talking about today. It is about the Supreme Court. It's not the decision we were thinking we would talk about the Supreme Court. And it's not really a decision we're talking about. Yesterday, Politico started popping off a story that there was a leaked advance copy of an opinion that was an advanced opinion of a decision that's coming down. Apparently, there's going to be a decision in an abortion case from the court, and the internet can talk about nothing else in the past 24 hours. What I want to start with, Craig, is we don't get leaks from the Supreme Court, and I mean ever.
Oh no, this is a brand new thing, and every place I've looked, it's all said that this has never happened in modern times, where an individual and there's really literally only a few dozen people who have access to any of this, and it's either the justices themselves or those who clerk for them who have access to these opinions. One of them has to have been the one who either completely and utterly bungled and mishandled this and allowed it to get out, or they were the ones who specifically leaked it. Just so you know, the reason they share these opinions with one another is, and you notice this was the first draft of an opinion.
Right.
So the point is they're sharing these thoughts because they then talk with each other, meet with each other, and they kind of exchange arguments, and because they really, in the end, what each person wants in their opinion is they want to have a solid, in their minds, supportable and foolproof argument as to why they believe what they believe and why they voted the way that they voted, and have that going forward. And it can be used not just to help inform the other side, and those discussions help inform them on arguments, but also it can be done to help bring other justices along to your side, and or say, well, if I modified this comment here or this statement here, maybe that's something that someone who would have voted the other way would support. And so it's part of a process. And this was the beginning of that process. And the person who did this undermined this very important process, because that's how you come up with, I mean, it's funny because these justices don't just come up with these decisions and these opinions on their own in a bubble. They literally work with one another, iron sharpening iron, even ideological opponents sharpening ideological opponents. And this person violated that very important process that has given us some really deep understanding and impactful rulings that are going to affect generations.
Yeah. I want to real quick. We got one comment that just came in. I want to jump to, because this really, I really want to get this one out there. Tom Walls, who's our every other Friday commentator, said, and just like that, outrage over Biden's creation of the Ministry of Truth gets shoved aside. Well, I guess there is that. Yeah. We talked about that at length on the weekend show. I'm not over that yet, but and I want to go off on something you said, Craig, and this is Alito is the, if we are to understand what came out from Politico, Alito was going to be the majority writer on this opinion, writing for the majority in this opinion. So if I can stir some tea leaves here and read some tea leaves, that means on the Bruin case, which is the one we're most concerned about in the Second Amendment community, he was probably not going to be the one writing the majority opinion on that one, should that go our way.
Right.
and it leaves the door open and a little wider for Thomas to be the one to write that majority opinion.
Well, and I think that's vitally important because, I mean, if there was anybody who has been fervently like arguing, like, look, what is the deal here? I mean, how are we going to continue to treat the Second Amendment like a redheaded stepchild? When is it actually going to be given the importance that it is due? And nobody has been more articulate on that issue than Justice Thomas. So I think it's wholly appropriate that he will be the one giving that opinion.
Absolutely. And let's face it, Thomas is coming up, and I don't want to. I want Thomas to be around another 50 years, but let's face it, he is coming. He's getting to be a senior citizen. He's coming up on what most people would consider retirement age. Most people consider long past retirement age, but he's coming up on where most people would consider it's about time for him to retire. One would think that this would be his flower, or a feather in his cap to go out on.
I'm hoping that he's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
That is my hope. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I'm hoping that he will be around for a while, but you're right. He could be around for a while, and this would simply be his last opinion.
Yeah. Charlie Chambers has a comment here. He says, this is too surreal. Initials for Biden's Disinformation Governance Board is DGB. Note how similar it is to KGB. Putin would be proud. He attributes that to Dr. John Lott Jr. Yes.
That is a good one.
That is absolutely fantastic. Dr. Lott, absolute brilliant brain. Love Dr. Lott, and what a great body of work he's got. I wish I had that man's brain. Yeah. He's just amazing. What I want to ask you, do you think, Craig, that this will? What do you think this does for timeline? Do we still look for end of May, beginning of June for the release of the decisions, or do you think this pushes that back for a while?
I don't. It depends on how much time. It depends on how this messes up the process. So, in other words, if people feel comfortable that they can identify who did this and address it, then people are going to feel more comfortable going about the process the way they normally do. But if they're unable to do so, and people there is that lack of trust, then there's a question as to how thorough of vetting are these opinions going to get before they eventually become the law of the land.
Yeah, and I want to join with something you said earlier, and this has got to be stopped. The Supreme Court is the final say in what is and is not constitutional, and the process has got to be sacrosanct. And this leaking and the trying to corrupt the process has got to stop. We've got to have faith in the system, and this attempt to introduce corruption into it is I hate it myself. It's
but here's the thing: the radicals on the other side, the institutions, process, values, none of that matters to them. It's win at all costs. Their attitude is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And that's the challenge that we have as those who are constitutionalists. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in the process. And unfortunately, their goal is not just to destroy our society and our values, but to destroy the process along the way. Imagine trying to play a basketball game where you're playing by all the rules and they continue to foul. They continue to do all of these things to keep you from being able to play. And no one, and whenever you call a foul, or whenever you try to get the referee to call a foul, the ref won't call a foul. I mean, it makes it almost impossible for you to win at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I want to bring up here real fast. My brain just, I had a comment pop and my brain just totally lost train of thought. I want to get this one up here real quick. Where's my button? There it is. DJ Play Nice says, Craig, that's far too broad a stroke. I don't know. I think Craig's tracking pretty close on that one. One thing I will say about this, about the whole situation here, is this: I do know that the part of the hope here is that through the release of this, it can cause some of the members of the Supreme Court that were thinking of going with this decision to maybe go to the other side, in that, well, we don't want to stir the pot that much. I could see that from my layman's terms, and this is a show about guns, not about abortion or anything else. We limit this to Second Amendment discussions here. Mm-hmm. So I'm worried that they're trying to use this leak to influence the direction of the Supreme Court, and I hope it doesn't. I hope this stays on track, that they stay on track and release the decisions as they are currently and don't bow to pressure. One last thing I want to get to while I've got it in my head and before it slips out is, if they don't, one thing I do expect from the left and from the progressives is, I expect a renewed push to pack the Supreme Court, to try to put 13, 15, 83 people on the Supreme Court.
It would not surprise me at all, because once again, tradition, process doesn't matter. And, it's funny, like I said earlier, he said it's kind of a broad stroke. Here's the thing. If this were the first time we had seen things like this start to happen from different people, I would probably, if it were the first time, then I would probably agree with you. But I'm just going to say, just go look back to the progressive era of the early 1900s and start to look at how they handled not just social issues, but how they handled economic issues and things like that. These tactics are not new. If you want, or I'll tell you what, even better, go back and read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and you will know these tactics didn't just come out of nowhere, right? These are tactics, and they're being used, and I'll say this, not just on guns, but on issue after issue, and they're they are solely being used by those promoting the leftist side, the leftist perspective. At a certain point, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a golden retriever.
It's not a golden retriever. How observant of you, sir.
All right, let's. I want to get two more comments in here, both of them from George Geller. Lefty loonies with law degrees can't even be trusted. Whoever leaked should be disbarred, just like Bill Clinton. Yeah, and whoever leaked, their time working with the Supreme Court is done. There is an investigation ongoing within the Supreme Court, and whoever did leak that, yeah, they're not going to be around the Supremes much longer. And
well, they're not. I doubt that they could be disbarred. I think their legal career could potentially be, and quite frankly, should be over.
Yes. He also says the courts are way more important than the founders intended. Yeah. They're supposed to be co-equal. They're supposed to be the executive, the legislative, and the courts are all supposed to be co-equal. There are three branches that are supposed to be co-equal.
Right. No, they're supposed to be co-equal, but the challenge that has been created is when you have people who completely and utterly deny fact and deny reality. When we used to be able to go forth in the realm on the battlefield of ideas, and whoever's ideas won the day, that's what became law. But now that's not what matters. I mean, once again, you have people who are willing. You have people in the Biden administration quite frankly, in states all throughout the country that are passing laws they know are unconstitutional. And they're doing so believing that, well, you know what? Even if the courts do overturn it, by the time they do, it will have been in place for such a long time that it'll be almost impossible for them to undo it. And that's their attitude. Once again, they don't care about the process. They don't care about what they care about is having whatever it is they want to do, having it happen. That's all they care about.
Absolutely. A couple more comments, and then I think we're going to go ahead and move on to another topic because we burned up over half the show already. But going back to DJ Plain Eyes, constantly pushing all ills on the bailiwick as the bailiwick of only the left is counterproductive. Well, I somewhat agree. However, I don't see a reason for anybody on the right or the center to leak this. I can't see how this helps anybody but the far left. I don't see I've been looking all day. Why would anybody do this? The only people that I see this benefiting is the far radical left side.
Completely agreed, and I get it. Some people, you want to be polite, you want to say, well, both sides are wrong, and I get all of that. But facts are facts, and history is history. Now, if you have a set of facts, of evidence, of things that you can show, and tendencies that show that the right would have, should have, or could have done something like this, I welcome you to present it. But I haven't seen it. And and be honest, I've looked for it.
Mm-hmm. One other story, there's a few other stories I want to talk about. One story that I definitely want to talk about, Tom Knighton wrote today up on Bearing Arms. The ATF has been creating a backdoor registry for quite a while. We've talked about it on this show from time to time. And what they've done is they've created a building where any Form 4473, when a gun store closes, and all their old forms get sent to the ATF. Well, they got a warehouse in Florida. All these are being collected at, and the fire marshal eventually said, "Look, stop! You can't put any more in here." By the way, the ATF is fighting that, but the ATF now says, look, it's now on gun store owners. Now you must keep your 4473s forever, not 20 years, forever. They are creating a de facto registry, and that's not technically. It is actually against federal law. There was a law that passed in the Reagan administration in the 80s that said there can be no federal firearms registry, simply because there's only one gun registry that I know of in the history of the world that has ever came about where after the registry they didn't come confiscate the guns, and that's the Canadian one. Instead, they got rid of the registry. That's the only one in history where there was a registry and they didn't come get the guns afterwards. Germany, they did. Cambodia, they did. Others, they have. But anyway, let me get into this story again. I'm sorry. Senator Hawley sent a letter to the ATF basically demanding answers on the new rules, what they plan on doing with all the registration information, all the information they're getting, and why they're collecting this information when it's an average of 7 to 11 years between the time of a purchase of a firearm and the time that firearm is found at a crime scene. And it's something like 1 in a million firearms that are purchased are actually used at a crime scene. So wouldn't that money to maintain this be better used actually fighting crime somewhere else, is the essence of the letter. And then one last thing, the quote out of this I want to use is as for the registry, Holly is absolutely right to call them out on that too. They can claim whatever they want, but let's be clear here. It's a registry. It may not be intended that way, and it may not be a particularly great one, but it's still a registry. You can call a fart aromatherapy if you want as well, but it doesn't change the nature of what that is either. I love Tom Knighton, man, and that line's awesome.
Well, exactly. Well, and he's in particular, when he's talking about this, he's referring to, for example, the issues of AR-15. And what I also liked was, people don't like the fact that people can build ARs, right? They don't. He talked about the fact that literally the great thing about an AR is you can make an AR so that it works for you and what it is that you want to utilize that AR for. And he also notes, he's like, that's not a bug. In their eyes, they see that as a bug. That's not a bug. That's a feature. Mm-hmm. That's the point of it. So when you're trying to regulate these things, especially they've created this term called precursor parts. And they haven't really defined what it is, except that it's a part that's necessary for a gun to work. So now you want to start adding serial numbers to every part that might need to necessarily go on a gun. Well, if I put the serial number on the barrel, on the trigger, on the spring, where you're going to put it on the spring,
exactly.
on all of these various different things, and all these various different things. So when I exchange that part out, well, now what are you going to do? Does the new part have to have the same serial number? Once again, their goal on anything makes absolutely no sense. And it's the idea and the statements that are made by people who don't understand guns, don't understand technology, don't understand the industry, and quite frankly, don't care to. All they care about is, I want to make sure that those people don't have guns.
Yeah. And let's be quite frank, an AR-15 is not like a 1958 Chevy coupe, where they can track the engine serial number, the transmission serial number. These are big parts that you can stamp. You're right. You cannot stamp a serial number on a return spring. These not without ruining the effectiveness of the spring, or or a Glock. You're not going to be able to stamp the spring in the magazine feed. Mm-hmm. And the gun won't work without it. So
right. And the idea of a registry, and you're right when you talk about confiscation. So in California, we don't have a registry, but we do have what's called the automated firearm system. So what happens is, when you purchase a firearm, it's noted it's called APHIS. It's noted there that you purchased a firearm. It is a backdoor registry, mm-hmm. to be quite honest with you. It's not a registry in the way that we normally think of registries, but it does happen. I know that right now, when you look at in California, they legalize they made standard capacity magazines illegal, and then they turn around and they made them illegal, and then tried to force you to turn them in, or they were going to confiscate them. So we know that they are eventually going to confiscate stuff that they want to be illegal. The first step is to make it illegal and they'll let you grandfather it in. And then when they find out that they're still not disappearing, then they're going to come and they're going to try and take it. Mm-hmm. And no, that is just not acceptable.
That's exactly what happens. And California will be the state that does that if we do not stop it. And the way we're going to stop it is through the courts. If we were going to stop it at the ballot box, we would have by now.
Well, what continues to happen at the ballot box, I mean, not so much at the ballot box, but the same politicians keep putting in the same laws over and over again. And the challenge we have is that we have many people who are pro-gun, but maybe it's not their top issue. And they may be someone who is, pro-choice, or they may be someone who believes in bigger government, or they may believe in someone who believes in other things that the politicians stand for that may take priority for them over someone who's going to protect their right to keep and bear arms. And it's not to say that they don't care about their right to keep and bear arms, but they don't even know enough about gun laws to realize how at risk their rights are. And many people learned that during the lockdown, because in California they went to try and get a gun and ammunition, and found out just how infringed their rights were in states like California.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let me get a couple comments in here. We got a couple of really good ones that just came up. Regarding serialization, what if the angle is to have certifiable parts on examples like a spring, and you must have the ability to certify the parts? Ooh.
Well, once again, anything that makes the production difficult or more expensive, that's what they care about. Their goal is that if they can't make them illegal, then they'll make them difficult to get. You've seen how they've treated Heller. They basically said, yes, you may have a right to own a firearm, but you don't have a right to buy one. Particularly, you don't have the right to buy one that you want or need. You also don't have the right to sell one. You don't have the right to sell one anywhere. You don't have a right to buy ammunition or to buy the ammunition of your choice that you could afford. You don't have a right to put a gun store anywhere you want. I mean, these are all ways in which they've sought to chip away at Heller and at the Second Amendment. This right here is that is a great example, DJ Play Nice.
George says, how many lefty loony gun grabbers are even capable of changing a flat tire? All they're good at is flapping their gums. This leads me back to the whole ghost gun thing, and oh my goodness, you can build one of those in 30 minutes. I want to go to the next politician that says that and put a ghost gun and a kit in front of them and say, you got 30 minutes, pal. Here's $100,000. You got 30 minutes. Where's your $100,000? Let's go.
Well, at least they would be highly motivated. Excuse me, but in many cases, once again, they have no idea what they're talking about. You notice he picked up a fully put together handgun and said, I could do this in 30 minutes.
Right.
No, you couldn't. You can't walk upstairs in 30 minutes. How are you going to put together a gun in 30 minutes? You can barely read from the teleprompter, and you want to tell me that you can follow instructions on how to put together a home-built firearm? I'm not buying it.
I gotta say, I am incredibly blessed to live in a free state, because today I went to my local gun store, and one other story we're just barely going to be able to touch on. We didn't get to. April was the third largest April in history for gun sales. 2021 and 2022, or 2020 and 2021 were larger. I did my part today to make May a large gun sale month for 4472 filings. I went out today. I picked up a brand new Glock 43X and brought it home to the Lathrop, added it to the Lathrop family arsenal. So
nice. Congratulations. I am a Glockaholic myself, and my 30 short frame is my favorite carry weapon. Oh,
I've had 17s. I've had a 22. I've had a 23. I'm partial to the 40 caliber myself, but I want something that I can easily conceal. The 43, the Glock 43 is just too small for my hand. When I fired a 43, that's way too small for me. The 43X, it's 9mm, not 380, and so it's more readily available and less expensive ammunition, and it also fits my hand better, and I can control it a lot better. And this one came with a red dot sight that is a whole lot better for these aging eyes.
Oh yeah, no, I I was really hesitant to get red dots, and then once I put one on my 30, I loved it. Wound up putting one on my 17, as well as my other firearm. So no, I'm a big fan. What's your favorite red dot? Do you have a preference?
No, I don't. This is the first one and this one came on the firearm. It's the first one I've ever had. So,
my favorite is Hollison red dot. They're nice. They're relatively inexpensive, and they come with, in particular, you can either go with just the single red dot, or you can actually go with the circle and the cross. It's like the kind of like the EOTech red dot, but they're dependable and affordable.
Yeah, I will have to explore this some more. I've yet to even. I'm wearing it right now. I've yet to even fire the first shots out of it, but I wanted to get used to it, wearing it around the house today. So,
take a class specifically for red dots, because you're going to find that it's a little bit different getting on target and anything. But once you get used to the draw and everything, you're going to find that you're going to get on target much faster.
I will say this, in dry fire today, it is, I have found that using my standard draw stroke, the red dot shows up just a wee bit little higher than I'm used to, where the sights normally align. So whether that means that the red dot needs to be aligned, or whether that means my sights, where my aim is a little low, I'm not sure. So,
well, that's why we go to the range, to figure that out.
That's planned for tomorrow. So
nice.
We are out of time, man. Craig, thanks. It's always fun to work with you, man.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, sir. Folks, just make sure to tune in to the rundown. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook. You can find us at therundown.us. You can watch us on OpsLens, where you can also watch this show. So check us out. We always have a good time.
All right. Folks, do come back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central Time, right after you watch Craig. Come over here, watch us, 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. Again, thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.